Okay, we'll bring this regular council meeting for January 22nd to order, and it's 3 p.m. and I will ask Councillor Bates to please read the land acknowledgement.
The town of Innisfail acknowledges that we are meeting on Treaty 7 territory, the ancestral and traditional territory of the Blackfoot Confederacy, Kainai, Piikani, and Siksika, as well as the Tsuut'ina First Nation and Stoney Nakoda First Nation. We acknowledge that this territory is home to the Métis Nation of Alberta Region 3 within the historical Northwest Métis homeland. We acknowledge the many First Nations, Métis and Inuit, who have lived in and cared for these lands for generations. We are grateful for the traditional knowledge keepers and elders who are still with us today and those who have gone before us. We make this acknowledgement as an act of reconciliation and gratitude to those whose territory we reside on.
Okay, thank you very much. And we'll move into 2.1. Are there any additions or deletions? No. Could I please have someone make a motion to adopt the agenda as presented? Councillor Dunham?
Barclay, I'll move that.
Okay, thank you. All in favor? Okay, unanimous. Thank you. And we'll move into 3.1, the regular council meeting minutes for January the 8th. When someone's ready, please make a motion to adopt those as presented. Councillor Bates?
I'll move the adoption of those minutes.
Okay. Any changes? No. All in favor? Okay, unanimous. Thank you. And then 3.2, the agenda and priorities meeting for January the 15th. When somebody's ready, please have a motion to adopt those as presented as well.
Councillor Barclay. Sorry. I'll make that motion, Mayor Barclay.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Wing. All in favor? All right, unanimous. Thank you. Okay, we'll move into the rest of the agenda now. So 4.1, I'll ask Manager Leith to come up and discuss the vehicle noise bylaw. Welcome.
So back in April, administration was tasked with reviewing the town's current traffic bylaw with the intent to provide tools to deal with vehicles who considered a nuisance through excessive noise. We looked at several municipalities who have provisions with either community standard or noise and traffic bylaws. Within the draft bylaw that's attached, we've added definitions that constitute or what constitutes excessive noise and have taken out Section 9.7, the use of helmets when operating a bicycle or scooter, as that would be enforced under the Traffic Safety Act. The addition of the definition, it states that disturbing noise means any sound or volume of noise caused or emanated from a motor vehicle that annoys or disturbs humans or endangers the health and safety of humans and includes, but not limited to, squealing of tyres, revving of the engine, loud acceleration and loud roaring or explosive sounds. Sounds from a radio, stereo, television or other device in the motor vehicle, and any sound that exceeds at the level of 92 decibels or more as measured by a sound meter 50 centimetres from a point of reception while the motor vehicle engine is idling, and any sound that exceeds a sound level of 96 or more as measured by a sound meter 50 centimetres from the point of reception while the motor vehicle engine is at any RPM greater than idle. Enforcement currently has tools under the Traffic Safety Act use of highways rules of the road regulations to enforce vehicle noise. These regulations prohibit excessive vehicle noise in residential areas in a matter that disturbs residents between 10 p.m. and 7 a.m. Although the regulations exist, there are challenges to enforcement which include complaints that are received and the vehicle is no longer at the location reported. Asking the driver to run his vehicle above idle is a request that potentially for them to incriminate themselves. Service level expectations, the tool could be used during check stop operations with potential for other traffic stops if a noise issue is identified during those traffic stops. Potential that manufacturer specifications on high performance vehicles may exceed the decibel set within the bylaw and potential challenges that could cause in court. Attached basically a proposed enforcement model. So idle in winter time, we wouldn't normally go out and try and do random patrols to see if a vehicle was excessively noisy unless we had reports of it. Vehicle public complaint, no action again due to the nature of basically trying to track down that particular vehicle. Identified during a check stop, obviously we would carry out the enforcement assessment, and identified during joint force operations, again, an assessment would be carried out. There are some budgetary impacts in respect of training and purchases of equipment and calibration, and they're detailed there. The training would cost approximately $6,000, which would include municipal enforcement and RCMP. And calibration annually is around $400 with the purchase of the decibel meters, 2 for RCMP and 2 for municipal enforcement, coming to around $3,400.
You're done? Thought you were going to carry on. Okay, thank you very much, Manager Leith. I'll have someone please make the first motion, and then we can open it up for discussion. Councillor Maceras.
Thank you, Mayor Barclay. I move that Council accepts and gives 1719-2024 traffic bylaw first reading.
Okay, thank you. So, questions? Councillor Harrison.
Thank you, Mayor Barclay, through to Manager Leith. I don't see anything in the bylaw that refers to motorcycles. And I know motorcycles can be pretty loud. Would this bylaw affect them at all?
Your Worship, through to Councillor Harrison, yes, it would affect them in exactly the same fashion.
Okay, so they would be covered under the same
Yes.
rules. Okay, thank you.
And they present some challenges in the fact that certain motorcycles at idle potentially could be up to or above the 96 decibels.
And maybe, can you give me an example of what 92 decibels sounds like? Is it like it's something?
I can give a practical example
For sure.
rather than trying to emulate. Around a gas-powered lawnmower, if you're operating a gas-powered lawnmower, gas-powered weed whacker, those would operate around that 92 to 95 decibels.
Thank you.
So adding on to that, Manager Leith, like a transportation model such as a modified bicycle that maybe has a 2-stroke engine on it or something like that, with that. So anything that is, I guess, affects transportation or somebody's taking for transportation would fall under this.
Your Worship, the challenge we've had with devices like that are that the CCs that they are using to power the vehicle don't constitute what would construe either a motorcycle or a motor vehicle at that point. So I think I know which vehicle you're referring to, but that unfortunately doesn't constitute or conform to what we would say is a motorized vehicle.
So should it be added in, do you think? I mean, there are some in the community.
It's an opportunity for sure.
Okay,
Isn't it,
Okay.
sorry,
go ahead.
isn't it covered though with all noise that can be disruptive and harmful to people? Like, I hear
Yeah, Your Worship, through
music
to
and everything else.
Councillor Bates, we do have community standards bylaw which causes references excessive noise. That again is pursued through general logbooks and verbal complaints.
Sorry.
So the difference is then, yeah, it's just more of a call-in that, as opposed to any kind of a ongoing enforcement, so, which is fine. Yeah.
I think the direction we were given and the challenges potentially we could have is service level,
Yeah.
is our ability to go out and enforce these, as it could be a huge piece potentially,
Yeah,
where
completely
we're
understand.
looking for certain vehicles or just vehicle descriptions, and what constitutes somebody's impression of above or a noisy vehicle may not be another's. So it's open to interpretation. And that's why it was felt it's best that during normal operations, where if we pull a vehicle over and we note that there's excessive noise being admitted through it, through modification or defect, and or check stops.
Yeah, no, understand. Thank you. Councillor Bates?
Yeah, so I had a couple questions. So in general, you said you've studied several other municipalities. Does this kind of align with what the ones that are trying to pursue noise control are doing?
Yeah, Your Worship, through to Councillor Bates. Yeah, that's correct. I think that our initial attention was drawn through Edmonton as well as the city of Red Deer. Locally, they had a campaign last summer that referenced noisy vehicles on their streets in Red Deer. And this was a prompt for this, one of the bylaws we did take a look at.
And I guess another question I had is if we didn't acquire the instruments and have the bylaw, it more or less leaves both our RCMP and your bylaw powerless? Like, if they can't measure and...
Your Worship, through to Councillor Bates, no, we still would be able to turn around and lay charges based upon highway rules of the road and other acts, not necessarily the bylaw and the definition of 96 decibels. So it doesn't mean that we wouldn't be able to enforce, it just means we would have to use a different act other than this particular bylaw if we weren't able to measure that in the way prescribed.
Okay. And could you estimate, and it's going to still be an estimate because you would have some potential turnover after the initial training and, well, I'm seeing a calibration cost per year. So for the foreseeable future, it would only be training turnover in officers?
Your Worship, through to yes, that's correct. However, we would only be training up 2 RCMP members initially, which the intent would be to train up more, so anybody who's involved in traffic enforcement would be able to enforce under the same portions of our bylaws.
Okay. Well, I know I spoke some at the start of this, and I still believe it's something we should do. And I have had a few citizens ask me in the last few months whatever became of that discussion item that you guys were bringing up, so I support it.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Hystad.
Thanks, Your Worship. I just want to apologize. I was laughing there when you mentioned the motorized bikes. I've seen a couple of those in town ripping around. They look kind of funny to me. But Manager Leith, do you believe that this is going to change anything in our community? Like, I look at the costs. I also look at what kind of data that we may have. I know that we can offer, or we can look at our current bylaws and address issues if they're consistent, as from my understanding and listening to you and reading our documentation. Do you believe that it's a big issue in our community right now?
Your Worship, through to Councillor Hystad. Yes, we do receive complaints regarding vehicle noise. As I recall, even on Remembrance Day, while the Remembrance Day service was taking place, vehicles, excessive noise, as I would personally describe it, disturbed elements of that service. So we do have a small minority of people who do run excessively noisy vehicles, and this gives us an additional tool in potentially dealing with them. And the opportunity to change culture as well. It gives an intent from the community to say, this is not what we want in our community.
Okay, and then my comments are, as I know when this came forward, Councillor Bates brought it forward and we agreed to bring it back. I've had some time to think about it on a economic basis for, certain residents in our community that may or may not be able to upgrade their vehicles. There's individuals that own vehicles that may not be able to run effectively as, some of our vehicles up here. And so when I look at it, I look at the cost, the amount of times that it may occur in our community. I was at that service there. That was just total disrespect. But how I'm looking at the bylaw is that we already have some tools in our toolbox that we can utilize. I think there's certain individuals in town that may not have the affordability to upgrade their vehicles, and there's some people that live in our community that have vehicles that are not running that well. They're trying to get to work and do X, Y, Z. So I don't know if a fine is really going to help this. You know, they may or may not pay it, but I right now, from what I read and what I'm seeing, is I'm not in favor of it, and that's just me personally. So I just thought I'd throw it out there at you guys.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Dunham.
Thank you, Mayor Barclay. I definitely understand the challenges to enforce something like this. And for me, I'm not looking at it from those few vehicles in town that perhaps the people aren't able to do those upgrades. I'm looking at the modified vehicles that I know are around town that I've heard personally myself and had people talk about. I know that there's trucks out there. There's modified muscle cars out there. There's a couple of the kind of little sport cars, and they're loud, they're obnoxious. And when I have heard people speak to me about the noise or seen it online, that's where it goes to. But I wonder, if we're not going to pursue those complaints when people see them going down the street, down Main Street, and revving their engine and going from like in front of like fast gas down, where they purposely rev their engine to make that noise. If someone is phoning in to make that complaint and we're not pursuing that, how do I speak to those people about the fact that they're trying to be active community members to be involved? How do I mean, I know we're discussing this, but I'm just wondering, how would I respond? And I'm looking, I guess, not just to Manager Leith, but to senior leadership in that. How do we respond if we're not going to be pursuing that?
Your Worship, if you're okay, in respect of, if somebody identifies a vehicle and gives a description and a plate, and they identify it as being excessively noisy, our community is small enough for us to potentially already have that vehicle highlighted in some respects. It's not something we would not follow up on. We would probably initially have that discussion with the individual, which is currently what happens when we're using other acts in respect of vehicle noise. So it's not something we would completely ignore. We would still follow up in the normal fashion, and if there is sufficient information, we would have that initial discussion. Obviously, in respect of issuing fees and fines, we would have to have evidence that an offence took place. So certainly that enforcement model isn't something, we're not going to ignore those potential complaints. There will be some element of follow-up with it.
Thank you very much.
Does that answer it?
Absolutely. That's wonderful. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Manager Leith. And I personally had a complaint on Friday from somebody with a loud vehicle that was buzzing through their neighborhood. So I think it's something that the community wants, and agree with that comment that it potentially changes the culture of the community and the expectations. And not just Remembrance Day, I think it was when Queen Elizabeth II passed away, and there was a ceremony at the cenotaph, and there was times that vehicles were so loud taking off from the stop sign you couldn't even hear what was going on. So I'm totally supportive of this, and I think nothing else sends a bit of a message that we take this seriously. So we have first reading in front of us, so I will ask all in favor. Okay. Okay. Yep. Carried. And I'll have somebody please make the second motion for second reading. Councillor Bates.
I move that we accept and give 17-19-2024 traffic bylaw second reading.
Okay. All in favor. All right. Carried. And we'll move to gives consideration to third reading. Councillor Harrison.
I move that council gives consideration for 1719-2024 traffic bylaw third reading.
Okay, thank you. Any further discussion? No? All in favor? All right. And opposed? Okay, can we move to third? And have someone please give third and final.
I'm not sure we can.
Oh, we can't because we don't have unanimous consent. That's correct. Yes, so we'll have to wait for a couple of weeks.
Yes, Mayor Barclay
Bring
will
this back.
likely bring
Yeah.
this at the next regular council
Yeah.
meeting for final reading.
Yep, that's perfect. Thank you. Okay, thank you very much, Manager Leith, for coming in today. Okay, so we'll move on to 4.2, the council action control, please. there's any discussions about any item, and if not, I'll please have someone make a motion that we accept this as information. Councillor Hystad?
I'll make the motion to accept it as information.
Okay, thank you. All in favor? Okay, carried. And we'll now move into 4.3, Mid-Sized Towns Caucus. So this is an item that I have brought up. So I've mentioned before, we've had a few discussions with mid-sized towns mayors about forming this caucus, similar to the Mid-Sized Cities Caucus. And we finally, after another meeting Friday, have a final draft of the terms of reference, which I hope everybody has had an opportunity to go through. So if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask. But I'm going to make a motion today that the town of Innisfail participates in the Mid-Size Towns Caucus going forward, and that we agree to pay the $250 membership fee. Does anybody have any questions about this? Councillor Harrison?
Thank you, Mayor Barclay. I think it's a great idea. I've worked with this structure before. The only question that I have, and I didn't see it in here, was the who looks after the money? Who's going to be the secretary? Because you are or will be collecting monies, but I didn't see that in the terms of reference. Is that?
Yeah, and it was a big discussion. We actually were kind of at a $500 membership level, but then we felt that was too much, and you're right, it goes back to the money. But I think if you look further down in the membership representation and voting, it goes through the appointment of like caucus committee, and there'll be a determination that a municipality will be a caretaker of those funds for potentially a period of 2 years. And then it would be potentially passed on to another municipality. We also have the Central Alberta Mayors group, so Penhold actually looks after those funds out of their municipality. And so, but thanks for the question, because it is something that we spoke to quite a bit.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? No? Then all in favor of the motion? Okay, carried unanimous. Thank you. And we'll move on to 5.1 with the inflow and infiltration reduction strategy with Director Kennedy.
Thanks, Mayor Barclay. So I have in front just a summary and a review of our inflow and infiltration reduction strategy. Curtis Hoffman was probably the biggest leader of this one. I'll give him the credit on getting this document together. He definitely put a lot of effort into this one. So since the transition to the wastewater treatment, the town has increased the emphasis to reduce the volume of I&I in our system. This water enters through the broken, cracked, or manholes drainage system, as well as private service connections, cross connections with storm drainage and sump pumps. This water primarily originates from rainwater or groundwater sources and does not require treatment in the wastewater treatment. Each cubic meter of water set into the regional line will incur additional costs for the town. The intention of this strategy is to identify high impact areas, ascertain the root causes of the I&I in these areas, and reduce the volume of the I&I. While achieving zero flow reduction is not possible, past experience with the town's wastewater system indicates a significant amount of inflow occurring during rainfall events. So some of the steps utilized through the report and the information we've gathered that we've identified to start looking at is flow monitoring, camera inspection of the existing mains. The last time that was done extensively was back in 2019. Realigning of existing water main or sewer mains, as well as realigning of the manholes, continual replacement of this infrastructure, as well as installing the weather station that we actually have purchased that a while ago. We just haven't reinstalled it, so we are looking to put that back up this year. The short and long-term goals of the infiltration reduction strategy are centered around optimizing the performance, sustainability, and resilience of a wastewater system, with benefits extending to the infrastructure, environment, public health, as well as being cost effectiveness towards our system. Yeah, we'll take any questions you might have in regards to the report. Otherwise, just looking for acceptance for information.
Okay, thank you, Director Kennedy, and thank you to Curtis for this report. I think it's timely, considering, you know, I know you've received an invitation to the South Red Deer Regional Wastewater Commission strat planning session in February, and it's exactly what some of the discussion will be around with other communities, so excellent. Wondering, do you have kind of insight, like a figure, right? I know you've done so much work on this the last few years, like how much the I&I has reduced?
In regards to just the percentage of reduction that we've had?
Like approximately?
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't have that data available. It is one of our goals is to continue some monitoring in regards to some stats. Now that we've got, now that we have Curtis in place, he really likes doing stats and stuff like that. So that was one of our goals is to look back at, as well as do some trends in regards to I&I. Part of that flow monitoring is while doing history tracking. So it is very weather dependent. So
Yeah,
this
of
year,
course.
this 2023, we had a very good year. We stayed under target with the SRD, where the year before we were significantly above. So we had a very rainy season. So part of the flow monitoring is it's pretty hit and miss.
Yeah.
You know, we started it this year, but unfortunately we didn't have any major events to be able to try and identify things. So that's part of just having those targets in the report to identify to us that it's important to continually monitor our system so that we can try and hit these dates and hit these events.
Yeah, okay, no, perfect, thank you. Councillor Bates?
Yeah, my question isn't directly related to I&I, but can be. Do we also have some tools in Innisfail where we can detect leakage from our pressure mains? I know some of the other towns are struggling with that, and then ultimately it seems to find its way both ways. It's lost fresh water and it's increasing their I&I. Do we have some actual equipment? I somehow vaguely remember hearing that we did at the Water Commission, but.
Yeah, it's up to Councillor Bates. So we don't specifically look at tracking water loss or water detection. But this year, actually in 2023, we actually started tracking our Melville Regional water consumption to what we bill and also compare it directly to what our sewer is. So we are starting to track that and want to start getting some background data and to be able to come back with some good baseline data as to what are we being charged, what's going back into our system, and then what is the SRD charging us, so that we can provide council and the public in regards to, what is this really costing us? Because we don't have that data.
I think my question was more if we know we have a leak, we have some equipment to help find it.
Right.
Because I know some of the other, there was even discussion at the commission about loaning equipment to communities that didn't have. So we do have some. If we know we have a leak, we can.
We do have some, I can't remember the name of it, but it does kind of senses the water in regards to that. As well as we do monitor our meters. Our meters are all electronic, so we have caught actually some potential water loss areas just through our meters as well. We start seeing some high consumption, and that flags some areas for us.
I got a phone call once, but I was more thinking the bigger ones, but no, thank you very much.
I'm assuming, Director Kennedy, like even monitoring events and collecting the data, it's still so weather dependent. So I think going back to when we had that big storm, whatever that was, 2020 or 2021, and I think a month where there's something, I'll call it close to catastrophic happening like that, like the wastewater can be $100,000 upside down from where it should be, right? Where if we're in normal times, so it's so hard for us to budget correctly. It's hard for you guys to determine what's coming in the coming years. So, but yeah, it's pretty significant for sure when we get some event happening. So if there's no further questions, just have somebody make a motion, please, that council accepts this report as information. Councillor Maceros.
Thank you, Mayor Barclay. I'll make that motion.
Okay, thank you. All in favor? Okay, carried. All right, and we will move into 6.1 with water conservation measures with Director Vickers.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Barclay. So at last council meeting, a motion was made to ask administration to bring back the information regarding our toilet rebate program and some details in our utilities bylaw regarding some water conservation measures. So first we'll talk about the toilet rebate program. So back in 2012, on July 12th, administration provided a report to council with just a draft program for the toilet rebate program. And in that report, they determined the eligibility for this program would be, it's a rebate of $50 for a 6-liter toilet or dual flush toilet, will be offered to residential utility account holders. The utility account must be in good standing. The value of the rebate must not exceed the price of the toilet. The rebate will be credited to the utility account once the application is approved. There will be a maximum of 4 toilet rebates per utility account per year. Toilets installed with new construction or renovations that require a plumbing permit are not eligible under this program, and the replacement of an existing low flush or dual flush toilet is not eligible. So it must have been a high flush toilet being replaced with a low flush toilet. So the application process was set out to be an application for a toilet rebate program, or toilet rebate, must be completed by the utility account holder. The application form will be available at the town office or on our website. Applications must be submitted within 1 year of purchase date, and obviously after the commencement of this program. The old toilet and the original receipt for the new toilet must be taken to the transfer station, where the attendant will stamp the original receipt and sign it to ensure that he has seen both the receipt and the toilet. All non-porcelain parts have to be removed. There was actually no charge, and there still is no charge if you take your toilet to the transfer station for disposal of the toilet. The original receipt with the signature must be submitted, and then Public Works will deal with the toilets and disposal of them at a later date. So it came back on February 27th, and it was approved as is to become effective on April 1st, and the motion read as follows. So residential utility account holders in good standing can apply for a rebate when replacing toilets that are 13 liters or more with low flush toilets that require 6 liters or less per flush. A rebate of $50 per toilet to a maximum of 4 toilets per account per year will be offered when replacing a 6-liter or dual flush toilet. The program uses the definitions from the utilities bylaw for its development. So on June 10th in 2023, administration brought forward a requested change to the program to include multi-units, specifically apartment buildings. They were previously listed, or they still are listed under the commercial definition in the bylaw, and were not eligible previously. So that was approved at that point to include multi-unit residential buildings as well. So there is no formal policy. All we're going off of is those few motions for the program. I did put in the current toilet rebate program data, so I have the years of 20 to 23, so you can see how many people accessed that program. Okay, so here these provisions are coming directly out of our utilities bylaw at 1701-2022, specifically under Part 3 under water utility. So in our utilities bylaw, we do have a provision called water wastage. No person shall cause, permit, or allow the discharge of water so that it runs waste, or unless whether by leakage from a service connection, a faulty plumbing system, or otherwise. So the town may, under those conditions, may consider reasonable allow water discharge for certain reasons if they need it. Also, we have a provision for emergency in the water supply. So when there is an emergency in the town's water supply as a result of contamination, pollution, fire, drought, or other natural or man-made event, the CAO may restrict the use of water from the town's water supply in any manner the CAO deems appropriate. Under 3.14, we do have mandatory water conservation. So this is in effect from May 1st until September 30th annually. So watering of lawns, gardens, streets are prohibited between 12 p.m. and 7 p.m. And then outside of those hours, we do incorporate an odd and even watering schedule. So if your house is an odd number, you can water on odd days, and if it's an even number, you can water on even days. There is a provision for new sod or seeded lawns that they still have to abide by. They cannot water within 12 to 7, but they can water every day for a period of 6 weeks with new lawns. 3.15, we do have the requirement to use low flow plumbing fixtures. So as of this, whenever this first came into effect, when new buildings are created, they must use those low flow fixtures. And then the only other item that I wanted to talk about is, as Director Kennedy made a comment, we do have a leak detection system with inside our meters. So Harmony is our current water meter reading system. If water flows through a water meter for 24 consecutive hours, it will appear on a report. And when it does, then we in the town office here reach out and contact those vendors. They may not have a leak, because we do have a few businesses that are on it all the time because they just have that much water flowing through their business. But we call them and we tell them that they showed up on our leak detector, and we advise them to contact a plumber to see about getting it fixed if they need be. So I'll take any questions, or we can have a discussion on what we currently have, and,
Sure.
and we'll go from there.
Okay, I'm curious, Director Vickers, should we have a policy for the rebate program as opposed to just a motion that's 11 years old, 10 years old?
Mayor Barclay, it would be nice. There currently is not necessarily a limit on toilets per house for the lifetime of the house. I would think if you replace 4 toilets in 1 year, you shouldn't get to replace 4 toilets the next year as well. There is no parameters around
Well,
that.
but you likely wouldn't, because if you're replacing with low flush, they wouldn't be eligible. But you even look at the change in liters. I think most now are probably 4.8 or less.
Yes.
The new toilets, but I would think we should have a policy, and I guess I'll put this out there to Council or Director Kennedy. Should there be more than just that particular aspect of the policy? And do we feel that we could reduce or help with water conservation with I don't know, shower heads and all sorts of things? So or can we help with, I don't even know, like rain barrels and that kind of thing, or promote that? And maybe not so much incentivize through money, but I think maybe just communication as we're moving forward here into springtime. And
Absolutely. Mayor Barclay, obviously, if we are directed to go create a policy, we would likely do that research and see what other communities out there have for water conservation efforts that are more at that local level or that residential level, like shower heads and whatnot. So definitely we can do that research and bring that to you at a later date.
Okay.
We did actually have a rain barrel program a few years ago that has been canceled. So I didn't bring any of that information because we're not doing that
no, that's
anymore.
fine. Councillor Bates?
With respect to the policy, I think in due course, I'd be thinking we should. I have a feeling with some of the things we're going to embark on here shortly, we may be sharing best practices with a lot of other towns and looking at their policies. And I certainly don't object to us, whatever we need to do, although I think no doubt it'll get covered in the press. He's sitting here. And that'll remind people that don't already know about the toilet. And it could probably wait until we, as far as a new formal policy would be my suggestion, that obviously if somebody wants one, they come and get it tomorrow. But I'm okay to revise the formal policy more in that May timeframe if we get progress made on whatever we're going to do with the Water Commission and that sort of thing.
Yep, and Councillor Wing?
Thank you, Mayor Barclay. I would absolutely support Councillor Bates's comment. My first comment was, I think from a best practice perspective, we've spent time in the past with other motions that were made years ago that there's no really good solid way of tracking. So policy from my perspective is important. But yes, I think in the coming months there's going to be more that will come forward that will either better inform our water conservation work now, whether we need something new or whether we can just enhance what we already have, but I would support waiting just a couple of months to see how that plays out myself. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Heistad?
Thank you, Worship. I'm in favor of a new policy. I remember sitting on council at the time in 2012 when we worked on this, and I think it just, you know, we're sharpening our pencil and making sure that we're doing what's right for the environment. But also, my comment would be if this research does happen, is if a rebate of $50 is enough for these times as well. Like, but I think there's a lot of good ideas that we're going to get in the near future, and those are my comments. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So let's make a motion that we direct administration to, in the future, bring back a policy around water conservation and rebates for upgrades to homes.
Yeah, perfect. I'll make that motion.
Councillor Wing
I'll
will
make that motion, thanks.
Okay. Councillor Bates?
Now, the only thing, as I would say, is we're likely going to be giving you more components.
Yep.
And I'm not sure if we want to just feed those weekly or
Well, I,
do a
you know,
little report. No, I'm
They'll
in
do their
favor of the
research,
motion.
yeah.
I'm in favor of the motion. I just want to,
I think our staff is on top of that and the situation, and whether we're in drier times right now or not, I think water conservation should be top of mind. Even if we went the other way, we should always be concerned about this, so.
yep. And I'll just make a little comment about the dollar amount. You can buy some pretty efficient toilets for a couple $100, and so if a quarter of it is paid and then you save all that money on your water, I think there's lots of incentive there. I think it's mostly awareness. Thank you.
Yeah, even if, when you do come back with it, even some data around what Councillor Bates was just saying, you know, there's probably some data out there that if you change from A to B, you're going to conserve X number of liters, which translates into X number of dollars, that here's a return on your investment.
Absolutely, Mayor Barclay, we can
Okay.
do some research. I'm sure there's studies
Yeah,
out there.
I'm sure.
on
Yeah.
reduction.
I'll add too, when I changed two of mine, it was a real relief not having to pay disposal of the toilet at the
That's right, yeah.
transfer station too.
I would just like to make a comment that in the original design, there was a comment that the rebate wouldn't exceed the cost of the toilet. So I do think
Yeah.
the cost of toilets has increased in price quite a bit. So
That's interesting.
likely in that, we'll bring our recommendations on what the rebates should
Yeah.
be based on market.
For sure, sounds good. Okay, good conversation, all in favor? Okay, unanimous, thank you. All right, and we'll move on to 7.1 with Director Jenkins.
Thank you, Mayor Barclay. So we're looking to council today for the approval of builder selections for the construction of homes in Napoleon Meadows. So the 2024 capital budget included 1.5 million for the construction of homes. On December 8th, 2023, the town issued a request for proposals for builder partners to support the construction of homes in the community over the next 5 years. The submission period closed on January 10th with 2 qualified submissions, one from Trueline Homes and one from Larcon Homes, both of Red Deer. Both are longstanding reputable local builders and have fulfilled the requirements of the RFP. Proposals were to be considered with respect to the proponents having extensive and successful documented experience constructing homes in the region, providing realistic estimates of project budgets, demonstrated understanding of the local market, and the ability to move ahead with construction timelines. So based on pricing, review of the builders, and example floor plans provided by each, administration is recommending the construction of 2 bungalows with Trueline Homes and 2 two-story products with Larcon on lots 16, 18, 20, and 22 Napoleon Meadows Way. We will, based on council's decision today, work on finalized floor plans and costs in coordination with each builder. If council does wish, in camera, I can provide you with a bit of a spreadsheet with a little bit more detail on the homes and the sort of the, we don't have finalized floor plans. We can bring those back for information in the future, but sort of, you know, what they generally are and what the cost estimates have come in at. So just looking for the two motions to engage the two builders.
Okay, thank you, Director Jenkins. I'll please have someone make the first motion. Councillor Dunham.
Thank you, Mayor Barclay. I move the council directs administration to engage with Trueline Homes for the construction of 2 detached homes to the maximum of $750,000 within Napoleon Meadows.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody have any questions for Director Jenkins? Councillor Maceros.
Thank you, Mayor Barclay. What do you anticipate the sale price of those homes would be?
So we can go through in camera, you can see the breakdown of the costs and the lots, but I would think you're probably in that 500,000 is probably going to be the list price of
Okay,
those
thanks.
homes. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Okay, all in favor of the motion? Okay, unanimous, and then please have somebody make the second motion. Councillor Wing.
Thanks, Mayor Barclay. I move that council directs administration to engage Larcon Homes for the construction of 2 detached homes to a maximum of $750,000 within Napoleon Meadows.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions about this? No? Okay, all in favor? Great, unanimous, thank you. Okay, and we will move on to 7.2 with Manager Shaw and the Care for Newcomers Zonal Immigration Partnership.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. So at this point, Canada has a population of just almost 39 million people. The Alberta government anticipates that by 2046, 80% of Alberta's population will be within the Edmonton, Red Deer, Calgary corridor. So that means that there's going to be a lot of people coming into the region. Most of that population will be in the major centers, but you can be certain that we anticipate that there will be people coming into communities such as ours, or to the town of Sylvan Lake, or to other smaller size centers around Red Deer. So if you look at the demographics in the last 5 to 10 years, you notice that the age population has certainly increased from 65-year-olds. So we're seeing more of that population within the general population itself. That's anticipated to grow over the next 10, 20 years or so. So somehow we have to look at replacing the workforce population, those between 15 and 64. So the only way to be able to do that is to be able to have immigration. And so we've all read the news lately about the amount of immigration into Canada and the need for immigration and et cetera. So Care for Newcomers, they had made a presentation to the Regional Economic Development officers in December, and so wanted to bring this forward to yourselves about a project that they are looking at working on for a feasibility study for a zonal immigration partnership. And so this would be a partnership with smaller size communities, less than the 20,000 or so, who would create a partnership to be able to provide a means to deal with immigration, to deal with their education, English as a second language, etc. So what the Care for Newcomers are looking at is the possibility of the town considering an endorsement letter for them to enter into a research project that would happen in the 2025. So the immigration program for the Canadian government is offering a possibility of funding this type of proposal. And so we have a deadline of January 31st for them to submit their application. So they have asked us to consider providing a letter of endorsement to their study. At this point, there's no cost to the municipality. This is just looking at the possibility of having a zonal partnership arrangement within central Alberta with a number of communities. And so what we have before you today is that request that we have a draft letter, as you see on your screen, for the mayor to endorse this letter so that we can send it to the Care for Newcomers in Red Deer.
Okay, thank you, Manager Shaw. Can I please have somebody make the recommended motion? Councillor Maceros?
Thank you, Mayor Barclay. I'd like to move that the Community Economic Development Committee recommend to council that it approve the attached community support letter identifying the town of Innisfail's desire to participate with Care for Newcomers in a feasibility study to be conducted in the 2025-26 fiscal year.
Okay, thank you. Maybe we'll just change that wording just a touch and say that the town, that council so approves the attached community, and we'll keep CED out of it. Okay, so does anyone have any, thank you, Councillor Maceros, does anybody have any questions about this?
I've got a couple questions. First of all, I'm very happy to see that CARE is pursuing this and has asked us to be a partner. And I'm wondering what, do you know how many other communities they've invited?
At this time, the details haven't been solidified. I would imagine that once they have the money in hand, then we'll be having greater contact with them to go over what kind of requirements we might need, what type of community organizations will be involved with this particular study, and like having those types of details.
And if I could just follow up, in my business, we do a lot of work with what we call the LIPs, so that's local immigration partnerships, and they end up having a capacity to work with, to mobilize a lot of resources in the area and produce documents like a workplace inclusion charter, for instance, that allows then employers to sign up for this and then gives them a set of steps so that employers know what to do. So it creates that infrastructure and it's an opportunity for mobilization. And I think that this is a fantastic idea. It's a great opportunity. These particular calls for proposals only come out once every 5 years. Right. And yeah, so I'm glad, I support it 100%.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Heistad?
Yeah, Manager Shaw, thanks for bringing this forward. I support this as well, and I think it's really great work, that potential work that we'll be doing. And especially with our welcoming, we have a welcoming committee in the community as well. Only question that I'd have for you when you get the details, if there's any in-kind type work that we would do as a community, you know. I know those details aren't there, but I think there's opportunities for us to help lead. Thanks.
Mayor and council, once we do have those details available and like a work plan available, then we would certainly be coming back to council at that time to be able to enter into any type of formal relationships that might be needed with the Care for Newcomers.
Thank you, Manager Shaw. I know this was a robust discussion at our last Community Economic Development meeting, and because we are in the rural renewal stream, so I'm curious, Manager Shaw, I know we have a meeting this week, but do you have updated numbers off the top of your head? How many letters of support Innisfail has provided in that program? With respect to the numbers, we have over 180 for the rural renewal stream. With respect to the regional partnership that we have with the other communities, probably have about 30 to 40 within those particular communities. Do you know, like I've heard some, other communities concerns that letter of support goes and this is all good, but then it's taking so long for something to happen. So 6-8 months, 4-6 months. So do we expect our employers or people that want to sponsor these people sit and wait? And is there any discussions with you and your colleagues about how does the process become a little bit speedier?
So, Mayor and Council, as an example, I had an inquiry today about a letter that we had issued back in July of 2023 from the province asking if this was a legitimate community support letter. So you can see that they're probably 6 to 8 months behind with respect to reviewing applications through the rural renewal stream. So the only way that you could see that speed up is if the province hires more program staff to be able to review these letters, or they have some type of program alteration that will allow them to be able to review applications in a more speedily manner, because at this end, it doesn't take very long, but then it enters into the provincial system, and then it has to enter into the federal system. So there's a very long delay. But from 2022, I know that there is at least a couple of individuals who have received their permanent residency, but it does take a very long time. And that's why when we talk to employers, we caution them that this is not going to be the immediate answer to your employment concerns about finding qualified staff. It's going to take a very long time for these individuals. Now, fortunately, when we first began this program, there were already quite a few individuals who had work visas in the community who had entered into this particular program. So that saved a lot. But there are now quite a few people who are applying from overseas that the employers are using. So again, it's going to take a fair amount of time before you see these people being able to be in the community, in the jobs for which the employers were seeking these workers.
So do you know, Manager Shaw, that the people that entered this program that already had temporary foreign worker status, like, do you know that they have come through and received permanent status quickly, or is that quite a lag as well?
So, Mayor and Council, yes, like I said, I know at least one individual who had gone through this program in 2022 who has his permanent residency.
Okay, but that's one out of, I think the last stats you showed us 50% of the applicants were already here, and that right now would be 90, right? So
correct.
So one is not a lot. Okay, well, thank you for this. So we have a motion that Councillor Maceras has made, so I'll just ask everybody in favor. All right, carried. So thank you for this, and lots of work ahead. Okay, we'll now go into correspondence. So I just wanted to bring up the Innisfail Fishing Game. So that invite, if anybody wants to go to the fishing game, please maybe let Vanessa know that this week, maybe by the end of the week. I know some of us went last year, so it was a lot of fun, and we can go again. Well, yeah, there's a dance this year. It was not last year, I don't think, but anyway, it was fun, good banquet and stuff. And then I know February the 5th, I believe, is the date Director Vickers will bring forward a full LGFF report from the town hall that we had this past week, and we can talk further about that at that time. Director Vickers.
Absolutely. Mayor Barclay, I was just, from the presentation, they had indicated that they would send all of the presentations to the mayor and CAOs.
Yep.
Would you mind, when you receive it, would you mind forwarding it to me?
I don't know. No, I'm just kidding. No, of course not. I haven't got it yet, so.
And yes, on February 5th, on the first AMP, I will be bringing a report over the
Yeah.
LGFF program.
So that this piece I just pulled out of the website the other day when an email came out. So, okay, I'll just have somebody please make a motion that we accept the correspondence as information. Councillor Dunham.
Mayor Barclay, I'll make that motion.
All right, thank you. All in favor? And then we'll go into our council reports, please. And we'll start with Councillor Dunham
Thank
today.
you, Mayor Barclay. Last week, on the 17th, I attended the CSSC meeting. We welcomed a new board member, Kendall Keeley, who is the general manager of the Innisfail Golf Course. Very happy to have them on board. We did a sort of just a little bit of an overview, once again, with the board members and town staff, just to give a little bit of history on ourselves and introduce ourselves. We had a discussion about the community grant and community benefits policies. We sent Kristen back with a bunch of information and guidance on some revisions to that. Kristen did present to us the new grant application form, and the hopes of that is that the applications will have a bit more information, so going forward we can make better, more informed decisions on the grants. We did have 2 applications that came in, and we did allocate some funds to them, but I'm not sure if the organizations have been notified yet, so I won't mention any names at this point. On Thursday, I did attend the Zoom presentation of the LGFF response by AB Munis. It was a good presentation. I know we're going to get a more thorough overview of it from Director Vickers in the future. I just have to say it was very interesting to hear finally the difference between the AB Munis, what they were looking for, and then the rural, the RA. So yeah, it's I think we can all agree that really, I mean, the formulation is good and it's simplified, but the biggest concern is the fact is that the pot is just not there, and the provincial government needs to bring more money to the table for us. This week, I am attending the RCMP Town Hall. Wednesday, I am joining Mayor Barclay and Calgary for the Western Canada Economic Forum. And on Thursday, I have the Community Economic Advisory.
Okay, thank you very much. Councillor Harrison is next.
Thank you, Mayor Barclay, and through to council and the gallery. I attended one committee meeting last Thursday, and it was in Drumheller, and it was the Red Deer River Municipal Users Group meeting. A very interesting meeting, pretty lively discussion around water, which has been sort of in the limelight for the last couple of weeks. We had 2 portions to that meeting. We had our annual general meeting, and I must apologize to council. I've been fumbling all day trying to get it into the format that on our template, and I'm having some issues with I've got it half done, but it doesn't look like what Juanita needs. So I apologize for that. It'll be in the next meeting. Our first meeting was the annual general meeting, and the membership there was pretty much the same as what the membership is in RD Mug. There wasn't anybody from outside that came to that meeting. We had a guest speaker, Roger Ramcherita, the Executive Director of Regulatory Assurance South, Alberta Environment and Protected Areas, and he talked about the 2024 potential Alberta drought that's coming up. And I think we've all seen the PowerPoint presentation circulated by Councillor Bates. A good presentation. There was no real discussion about where we're going to head. It was more of a presentation for information, but the outcome is bleak. If we continue the way we're going, it's going to be a long, hot summer. So, financials, we reviewed the 2023 financial statements. Everything was in order. Appointment of 2 audit review representatives, myself being one of them, and the other being a councillor from Alex. So I spoke with the executive director this morning, and he's putting together a package that he'll be sending out to both of us so that we can review before we go through the audit. We recommended and confirmed that the town of Drumheller will be the accounting authority for 2024. That passed unanimously. So the town of Drumheller will be looking after the books for the next year. Had an election, one for the urban co-chair and one for the rural co-chair. And the urban co-chair was Bill, I forget his last name, and the rural one was John Ireland, which both were by acclamation. They again put their names forward. There was discussion around an executive committee. The previous executive committee was basically 12 or 15 people, and it was felt by the group that that was way too big of a committee to get things done, to get action on some of the items. And it was felt that coming up, that we're gonna be busy. I think RD Mug and everybody felt that there's going to be a number of things that we may be able to partake in, and so we've put the formation of the executive committee on hold until after the March presentation of the provincial budget. There's been money set aside or proposed to be set aside by Finance Minister Horner to the tune of $500,000 to do a feasibility study on a downstream dam at Ardley. So that's phase one of that project. So that's where the committee is really going to stand out, we feel, because there's going to, the government's looking for what they call a project champion. We really don't know what that means yet, but RD Mug's name has come up, and so has the Red Deer Watershed Alliance. So there will be discussions around that. So that committee formation has been put on hold, and our next meeting is in March, so the timing's perfect, the budget, and then we can talk about the formation of that committee. No changes to the bylaws, and the meeting was adjourned at about 1:45. At 2 o'clock, we went into our regular meeting. Of course, the financial statements were exactly the same as what was presented at the annual meeting, passed unanimously, so we've got an operating budget. We had a very short presentation from Bill Shaw, who is a water consultant that has been working with the RD Mug since the inception of RD Mug, and he was also presented with a professor emeritus. That, I guess that means that he's going to be a member for the rest of his life in RD Mug. A very nice presentation for all the contributions that he's given to the group. They received, or he received, the South Saskatchewan Operations Management Plan on Wednesday night, and it's a 180-page document on water and how it's the South is going to be affected. So he sort of give a very high-level summation of what he had read. So there's going to be more to report on the March meeting. The new business are proposed meeting dates, and I'll get these to our executive assistant, Juanita. March 21st, May 16th, July 18th, and September 19th, and November 21st. Of course, meetings being held in Drumheller either via Zoom or in face. Due to the essence of time, the executive director's report was deferred to the March meeting. It was getting late. We didn't get out of there till 5 o'clock, so it was felt by the group that it was, or the chairman made the call that we would have his report. So the next meeting's March 21st. I'm open to any questions, and like I say, the actual meeting minutes should be forthcoming here fairly quickly. So, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Harrison. And we'll move on to Councillor Wing.
Thanks, Mayor Barclay. Yeah, last week I participated as well in the Alberta Munis LGFF webinar. I did also, as with the rest of my colleagues, find it very interesting, certainly concur. The formula appears to work. The provincial contribution is inadequate, so there's certainly some good advocacy work ahead of Alberta Munis and probably the rest of us as well. This week coming up is a busy week. I will be attending the RCMP Town Hall this evening, and there will be information provided this evening on the new COP program that is ready to launch, and so that's exciting news for the community. The Municipal Development Plan Advisory Committee meets tomorrow. Innisfil Public Library Board meets tomorrow. Mountain View Regional Water Strategic Planning Session is on Wednesday. I've been invited to attend a Red Deer Polytechnic Impact Breakfast on Thursday. Parkland Regional Library System Executive Committee meeting this week as well. And then on Friday all day is the Building Resiliency in Drought Workshop in Black Falls. So it's a busy week, but I'll get to test the new reporting system as we move forward.
Thank you. Councillor Bates?
Sorry. So I guess I've got my notes here that pretty much covered what I reported last week, so I don't think I'll go through them all unless anyone had specific questions. The first one with respect to the Water Commission, the one thing that I saw I didn't put in there was their next regular meeting is the 14th of February. And of course, the highlight for the next is basically the day after tomorrow, the 24th, where we'll be doing the strategic planning. And one of the major discussion points in that meeting will be the drought plan. Any other questions on that one? Nope. The police and safe communities, again, I kind of covered that. I'll apologize, I misspelled BASA. It should be 2 S's. And yeah, that was me sending it wrong to Juanita. We also did this past weekend a test run of the community survey, which will be launched tonight at the town hall. Yeah, and it's a very thorough. It took me quite a while to do it. I was trying to do a good job of it, but it was plenty long. But I think if everyone does put effort into it, it'll pay some dividends with respect to really reading the community. Yeah. Beyond that, I attended the LGFF last Thursday, and I'll look forward to that report. I guess the key thing I heard in it was some of the inequities of needs-based funding that they'll be looking at. Have the RCMP, I'm sorry, I attended the snowballs and tumbleweeds. Snow and tumbleweeds, I'm sorry. Anyway, sadly the temperature, I think, led to a real low turnout there, and that was unfortunate because I think they had some very dedicated volunteers and some good stuff going on. And I was a little late there myself, but apologize for that. So this week, the town hall this evening, MDP tomorrow, and the Mountain View strategy on Wednesday. And I think I'm volunteering to deal with hot dogs on the Literacy Day on Saturday. That's it.
Okay, thank you. And Councillor Maceros.
Thank you, Mayor Barclay. Yes, I also attended the LGFF Town Hall and found it very informative, and so much work has been done. We had a Chamber of Commerce meeting on Monday evening where we met with Scott Robinson, the president from the Red Deer Chamber, to talk about different models that we might follow for the staffing issues that we're working with right now. I've got the community economic development on Thursday. I'm still hoping to get to the drought planning event on Friday, and I have to miss the RCMP town hall tonight, unfortunately. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And Councillor Hystad.
Thanks, Your Worship. Just want to send my regrets. I couldn't attend I'm not going to say snow and tumbleweeds event. I had a personal stuff going on that day. LGFF, attended that. The drought event is on the Friday, and the RCMP townhouse is tonight, and literacy events on Saturday. So that's it. Rounded it out. Thanks.
All right, thank you. And my report as well is in here, so don't really need to go over too much. This week coming up, we'll be at the RCMP Town Hall tonight. Then, as Councillor Dunham said, we're off to Calgary on Wednesday for the day to the Western Canada Economic Development Forum. Community Economic Development meeting on Thursday. Also invited to the Red Deer Polytechnique breakfast on Thursday morning. We'll be at the Drought Workshop in Black Falls. Have a meeting with Minister Dreeshen with a couple of other Central Alberta mayors this week as well on Zoom. And yeah, looking forward to everything. And we'll also be at Literacy Day on Saturday. So we will go into open mic. Does anyone have anything they would like to add? Welcome, Ron King.
Thank you, Mayor Barclay and the staff, council. We were talking about it this morning at our bunch of us that get together for coffee at the Legion. There was a rant the other day on social media about the lack of snow plowing. I wanted to reply to it, and I'm glad I didn't, because it would have been extremely impolite. I'd just like to pass on to Director Kennedy. You guys, your public staff do an amazing job in this community. Some of the other communities are far, far behind what we have here for service levels. Thank you.
You know, it's the best thing for your health. Stay off of social media. Okay.
I'd just like to know when my street gets done.
Well, you should get done fairly quickly because you're on a main route, so yeah, that's just as well, yeah. Okay, we'll go into upcoming events then, please, Juanita. Okay, and we'll just have a motion, please, to accept this as information. Councillor Bates.
Yeah, I'll make that motion, and I'll mention that I forgot to mention I was going to the Black Falls meeting this Friday as well, but I'll make that motion.
Okay, thank you. And we could also add it to the upcoming events. Juanita, my fault is the South Regional Red Deer Wastewater Commission Strategic Planning is February the 18th. At Red Deer County, so I didn't get that to you. Okay, we'll then have a motion to go in camera. Oh, I'm sorry, yeah, we do have a motion. All in favor? Okay, thank you. And we'll have a motion to go in camera, please. Councillor Heistad.
Motion to go on camera.
All in favor? Thank you.